Welcome, everyone, to Donovan and Dino on a jam-packed breaking story Thursday night. Along with Jim Donovan and Dave DeNatale. We're, of course, brought to you by Master Pizza. Master Pizza, download the Master Pizza app and earn pizza points today. It's Master Pizza. Taste above all. Jimmy, I can't even catch my breath. I mean, during front row, John Dorsey commented on the Myles Garrett situation, but Myles Garrett himself commented on the Myles Garrett situation. And, while we'll get to kind of the broader story in a second, just to kind of update. Myles saying, hey, look, it doesn't excuse what happened, but as he put it, I know what I heard when it came to Mason Rudolph when they were in that scrum situation before the helmets were flying.
Yeah, and I think the thing he's really upset about is that whatever was said in the appeal hearing yesterday obviously leaked out of that room, yes, and it became available to the media, and suddenly in the middle of the afternoon, there's a new twist to the story, and the twist is a pretty serious accusation that Mason Rudolph had hurled a racial slur at Myles Garrett, and then that really touched off what we saw a week ago, this evening, a week ago tonight, that touched off that brawl. Myles used that as part of his defense in the appeals hearing yesterday. He also used that precedent of the incident back in with Richie Incognito, yes, and Antonio Smith and the suspension there. But really, the crux of the matter was, the racial slur. Now, that had never come out, okay? And now remember, yesterday was the hearing, so we were 6 days separated from the event. It had never come out from a Steeler, from a Browns player, and obviously never came out from Myles Garrett. But it was said in the hearing, and he is, first of all, upset that got out.
Yes.
He thought that the hearing room was sacred and that everything that was said in the room was confidential and would be kept that way. And Dino, I think he's got a point there.
I do too.
I really do.
Do too.
I think he's got a point there. Now, the NFL quickly came out after that story broke and said they found no evidence. Right. And they researched the situation by going through the game report with the officials, what players said in both locker rooms immediately after the game. And they never heard anything about it. And a lot of people have been saying, but aren't players mic'd up? Now, they were mic'd up a lot. But remember, there was that incident a few weeks ago with Sam Darnold,
yes,
and the New York Jets, where kind of in an embarrassing moment, ESPN on the Monday Night Football game played a mic'd up segment where Darnold was admitting, I'm seeing ghosts. In other words, I don't know what I'm doing out here, against the Patriots. And so I think a lot of people teams pulled back from the mic'd up, yes, situation. So, if there was a mic'd up, for instance, if Mason Rudolph was mic'd up, you would have the case,
evidence,
lock,
one
stock,
way or the other, you'd have
lock,
the
stock,
evidence.
and barrel.
Yeah.
But this is tricky right now. This is really tricky, and the overwhelming thing is he lost the appeal, which I knew was going to happen.
Yeah, if you watched the show 2 days ago, we pretty much kind of laid it out for you that the NFL, all they would do if they were to tell us how many games he was going to be suspended, or B, reduce it and say, well, it's going to be 6 or 4 or whatever, it would turn dynamite into a powder keg.
Yeah.
And that basically this story would just, instead of being smoldered as we move towards the playoffs, it would be more explosive.
Yeah, and it's the whole appeal setup, Dino. This is a major case. This is the most major case that the NFL has probably faced with this kind of a scenario, which is so unique. This is a major case. This is not going to be decided, and I'm not putting down the appeals officer, James Thrash, but this is not going to be decided by James Thrash, okay? This is going to be decided by one guy, Roger Goodell. And he wasn't going to be in that hearing yesterday because that's not the step that was in place. Once they put the indefinite tag on this suspension and put it at that level, that meant that he needed reinstatement back into the league. And there's only one guy that can do that, and that's the commissioner. And that's going to take time, and it's going to be on the commissioner's call. It's not going to be Myles Garrett booking an appointment with him.
No.
How does next Friday look? It might be, it's going to be when the commissioner wants to do it. And I think it's going to take time because I think the NFL wants to take the emotion out of it.
Yes. I think sometime between the Super Bowl and the NFL draft, and maybe even after the NFL draft.
Yeah,
but
good point.
It's not going to be. It's not going because you said it the other night. The last thing they want to do is have Goodell be distracted, the story to be a distraction in the middle of the playoffs, or certainly in the run up to the Super Bowl.
No, yeah, exactly. It's just like, you can't hire a football. They don't never want you, right? Some teams do it, but you never hire a coach or announce the hiring of a coach during the playoffs until the Super Bowl is over. Then that Monday you can do whatever you want to do. I mean, you can, 9 coaches get hired, but no, I knew that this was going to be the way it was going to go. There was no way. In fact, he really didn't even have to be at the hearing yesterday because the guy that he sat in front of yesterday wasn't going to be the judge in this case. The judge is sitting, the hearing wasn't even at the NFL headquarters. I mean, when this goes down, when it goes the final round, if it's a 15-rounder, when it's in round 15, okay, all of a sudden when they tell him, "Cut me, Mickey," in Rocky, and incidentally, that was the film where he was a boxer.
Yes.
When they do that, he's going to be in Roger Goodell's office.
Right, in Park Avenue.
Yeah,
yes.
He's not going to be at the Bank of America Tower.
Right. Now, Rudolph has said through a Steelers spokesman that he vehemently denies the allegation. He hasn't even been disciplined yet for
yeah, really, and that's strange.
That
is strange. Yeah, I don't think that's a good look. I think they should have handed down some kind of punishment to him. I mean, he's very, very much involved in it. Yes. He triggered it, really, and he has had no discipline handed down to him in the way of a fine or a suspension. A lot of Browns players felt he should have gotten a game or something more than that. But definitely everyone's waiting on the fines part of it. So it's an interesting story that took a really, really wild turn, I thought, today.
Yeah, it was one thing. I was surprised that 24 hours after the meeting, that they came out and ruled on it. But okay, we said that might take a little time, but okay, that's fine, they did it. But yeah, all of a sudden it's like, Adam Schefter and Josina Anderson get the report about the racial slur, and now the NFL's got to come out and say something, the Steelers have to come out and say something, and it becomes chaos.
Yeah.
And now Garrett has come out and said something.
Well, the only other thing, too, is it's really fueling quite a heated scenario next week in Pittsburgh. I mean, it's really adding fuel to the flame that's going at a pretty good rate right now anyway. And, this is going to be quite a scene over there next week. Now Jake Trotter just had an interesting twist to the story, and I believe I have this right. And Jake's the reporter who covers the Browns for ESPN and ESPN.com. And I think he has it from Baker Mayfield. Mayfield seems stunned that there was a racial slur. He hadn't heard about it. He hadn't heard it from any of the teammates either.
Well, and it's interesting.
And Baker said that he had talked to Myles on a couple of occasions post-incident because Baker wanted to clear up his Fox Sports.
With Erin Andrews.
With Erin Andrews right after the game, his post-game interview with her, where he said, "Hey, bad move, shouldn't happen. He really hurt the team," and he wanted to clean that up with Myles. So he had talked to him a couple of times. Now, wouldn't you think that Myles would say to him,
"Yeah, that hey, this is what
really happened. This is why it happened."
Right. And it sounds like that didn't happen. A lot of people are asking Jimmy, and we kind of touched on this a little bit Tuesday, but now we're a little closer to the game. Can Freddie Kitchens get this team focused now with all these distractions and get them focused on job one, which is beating the Dolphins on Sunday, and then job two to try to keep this train of victories going here through the end of November and into December?
Well, I don't know if he can do it. I really don't know if he can do it. And I don't know if any coach can do it. But I will tell you this. I've been around them all week, and they look good. They look like they're excited about the 2-game winning streak. And they look like they're very confident about going into this game on Sunday against the team that's 2-8 against Miami. And they like the fact that they're at home, and they're not thinking about the Steelers next week. They're pretty zoned in on what's going on. They also have accepted responsibility on the defensive side. Hey, we really have to do some special things because not only is Myles not here, but Larry Ogunjobi's not here. And then the injury situation. Vernon's doesn't look like he's going to play. And they have a lack of depth in the secondary now because of injuries. And then on the offensive side, I think that there's a heavy burden on their shoulder pads. And I think they realize that, hey, it's time to go here. It's time to start scoring. It's time to living up to what's on paper. Because on paper, that looks like an explosive offense. when you've had additions into the offense. I mean, the defense has had subtractions. The offense has had additions.
Yes.
Kareem Hunt's been added. David Njoku looks like, if he doesn't play this week, I think he'll play next week. But I think he might try to play this week. That's an addition.
That's huge.
So they should be ready to roll.
Your adopted son, Nick Chubb, should see
Let me just say this.
a lot of time.
We in the Donovan family are so damn proud of him right now.
Well, 1,000 yards. He's already got 1,000 yards.
And he's nominated for the Sports Ship Award.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah. And that would be a perfect fit. This guy is the ultimate pro.
Yes.
I mean, you watch him in practice, how he practices. I mean, I looked at him yesterday in the locker room. He's standing, doing his media session, which I know he's not a big fan of because he's shy. Not because he's, he doesn't like the media. He's really shy. He's a shy guy. But I looked at him, and he has grass stains and white paint from diving on the ground all over him on the yard stripes. And, most players of his level would be saying, hey, listen, don't touch me during practice.
Right.
Like, in fact, give me one of those red vests where nobody can touch me. This guy does it in practice, and that's why he's such a great player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lean on him. Let's see. What did Jackie said? I think Myles would protect his teammates and not give them a burden to carry like what Mason Rudolph allegedly said to him. Just to kind of put a bow on the Garrett thing, and Myles even said it to himself. Regardless of what Rudolph may or may not have said to him, and again, Myles says, I know what I heard. Garrett even said at the end, it's like, hey, look, it doesn't excuse what I did. And I thought you put it perfectly at the end of Jimmy's take, and also during the news tonight. Garrett's facing the biggest game of his life.
Absolutely.
When he's got to go in front of Goodell, whenever that's going to be, months from now, weeks from now, months from now, whenever that is, because he's got to make Roger Goodell believe that this is never going to happen again.
Yeah, and let me just say this. Roger Goodell takes a lot of hits, okay? Mostly because he makes $40 million a year, okay? And, he makes a lot of money for the league. He makes a lot of money for the league, and those owners love that. Okay, so a lot of people thought, he's been too lenient in off-the-field problems with his players, and that's true. But he's really circled the wagons on that, and he's tightened things up that way. Let me just say this. He is a reasonable man.
Yes.
I have met him on several occasions when he's come to Browns training camp. I can remember a Monday night game. The Browns were playing in Buffalo, and Doug Deacon and I were in the team's hotel. We were in the lobby, and he came in for the game, and he came over and he talked to Doug and I, and Doug made a case about, hey, you know what? It was about concussions. And Doug said, you should really enforce a rule where players should wear their mouth guards, because if you wear the mouth guard, you break down the impact.
Yes.
And now, he could have, just said, hey, listen, I got to get going.
Right.
I got CBS on the phone. They're offering $5 billion. But he stood there with us, and he really listened to Doug and followed it up with a phone call.
Wow.
And said, I took what you said to heart, and I've asked some people about that. You make a good point. And I think he's a reasonable guy. So I think when Garrett does play the biggest game of his life, which is that game, he will be sitting with a guy who realizes he's a super talented player. He's important to the league because he's a young star player who really has never done anything like this,
right.
Thank God, before this, and probably will never do it again. So how do we solve this situation? And I think that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, but it will be at a time when, it's enough time has passed from this incident. And like you said, probably in the offseason, probably when, the NFL isn't necessarily, making headlines and just, hey, Myles, come see me on March 27th at Park Avenue,
right.
10 a.m.
Yeah, I think we have to sit, and so does he. We have to sit with the fact that he is not going to play this year, and he's done for the season. It's funny, we were at the airport last night when he came home, and ended up talking to his representative, and I don't know if they were just putting a good face on everything, but they were very optimistic as they touched down in Cleveland that he was going to be on the field soon.
Right.
I did not share in that when we got the interview back from Hopkins. I really felt that there was no way this was going to be changed on this particular setting, that appeals hearing.
Jeff says the problem with the NFL is that this indefinite suspension stuff, it's not definite. He goes, so the perception is that Roger Goodell is kind of making this up on the fly.
Well, no, I don't think that that's the case. I think, Kareem Hunt had an indefinite suspension. Josh Gordon had an indefinite suspension a couple of times, right? Where they had to go and they had to be reinstated back into the league. And remember, we were waiting, first of all, for Hunt to get reinstated. And then we found out how many games. Now, this is a little inverted. I mean, this is immediate.
Right.
He's out right now. He's not playing Sunday. He's probably not going to play for any more Sundays this year. The worry that the Browns have and Myles Garrett has is when they finally do sit down, does he add on more games into next season? Financially, that's crippling to Garrett. Okay, it's like $270,000 a game next year. And the Browns need to know. I mean, what do they do? They might change their draft plans. Like if we're not going to have Myles Garrett for the first four games of the season, or do we do something in free agency?
Right.
Because right now they're thin at that position without him being there.
Right. Yeah. So that's I wonder if that might make the meeting closer to the Super Bowl than necessarily the NFL draft, just in fairness to the Browns.
Well, the only thing is, Dino, there's going to be big reaction when it does come down. Pro and con. Some people are going to say, oh, that's great. The suspension is over because the season is over. Or some people are going to say, you didn't give him enough. You backed off. I mean, that's the worst thing. He could have killed that guy when doing that. So there's going to be a lot of news. I don't think they want that around the Super Bowl.
No.
So I don't think they want that. It was like Deflategate. Nobody wanted
Nobody
wanted that around the Super Bowl.
They wanted it, it's like you don't even want it at the combine either.
Probably not.
Right.
Yeah.
You want
there is enough downtime in the offseason. I mean, they have a bunch of time pockets of time where they can get going.
All right. So while all that's going on, the Browns have the Dolphins Sunday, and quick scouting report on Miami. What should we be looking at when we see this team?
Well, you're going to look at an old quarterback. In fact, he'll be 37 on Sunday. Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's his birthday. But he's a guy that's beaten the Browns a lot. Like 5-1, I think, is his record. He's beaten them with 3 different teams. He beat them as a Jet, as a Bengal, as a Bill.
That's right, the Bengals. That's right, as well. I was trying to remember the third team.
I think he's the first quarterback to at least win one game with 7 different teams. So he'll be 37 on Sunday. He's got a little, I wouldn't let him get off to a good start because he can get into a groove.
Right.
Now, here's the thing that's amazing about them. They're 2-8, but they are one of the least penalized teams in the NFL. That's amazing to me. Okay, you would think, I mean, we're like the most penalized, but I mean, you would think that a team that's 2-8 commits a lot of penalties. But that's, Brian Flores out of the Belichick tree. A lot of discipline, not going to stand for it. They are, I have to tell you, they are really wiped out. They have no safeties. They put both of their starting safeties from last week and during the season. They went on IR this week. They're both injured.
After trading Fitzpatrick when the year started.
Right, and other guys. They can't run the ball. Because they really don't have a running back right now. They have a bunch of guys. They just have guys. Last week, for instance, they threw the ball 55 times in their loss to Buffalo. They ran it 14. Now, they were behind early, but I mean, still 55 to 14. Wow. They're pretty good on special teams. They recovered an onside kick, a surprise onside kick. And they had this kid, Jakeem Grant. He returned a kickoff 101 yards last week. So on special teams, and again, that's a Brian Flores. That's a New England's very good on special teams. He's out of that organization. Defensively, they have a couple of Buckeyes and a kid from Benedictine, Jerome Baker.
That's right.
The touchdown maker when he was a Benedictine Bengal. He won a state championship. That's right. He's a really good linebacker for them. Raekwon McMillan from Ohio State, but he's been hurt. So I don't know if he's going to play on Sunday. Really, I mean, we know what they're doing. They're playing for the draft. They're playing for a high draft choice. It doesn't look like they're going to get the number 1 choice because they won a couple of games in a row. I mean, they beat the Colts in Indy 2 weeks ago. That was with Brian Hoyer playing, not Jacoby Brissett, and they beat the Jets.
Right.
So they've won 2 in a row, 2 out of 3 now because they lost last week to Buffalo. Very, very winnable.
Yes.
And the Browns should really take care of matters Sunday.
Yeah, and start then Steeler Week Part 2.
Yeah.
Somebody said on here they may need the National Guard outside of Heinz Field for the rematch.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Before we get out of here, just your reaction. I know you touched on it a little bit during What Matters Most at 6. The story that came out from the Kansas City Star about John Sherman, who's going to be now the owner of the Royals. But the report was that there had been an understanding that potentially Sherman would have been able to take over as the majority owner at some point of the Cleveland Indians.
Right.
So you buy that? You believe that?
Yeah, sure. Because I think when you're a guy like him and you get involved, the first step to owning a franchise in any of the professional sports, and in this case Major League Baseball, is that a lot of times if there isn't a team available, they hook you up with somebody to become a minority owner. For instance, the Haslams were minority owners, very small shares, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it was like a holding room for them because they said, we really want to own our own football team. And the NFL says, okay, well, one's not available right now, but, how about learning the game with this, with the Steelers, and then we'll see what you can do. And I think the same is true here. He's got the perfect team now because he's from Kansas City.
Yes.
The other thing is, 2 points, I don't think that the Indians were for sale because I think he had more than enough money to buy them if they wanted out. I think the Indians are still a family-owned baseball team, and that family lives in the area, and they want to own the baseball team.
And they've come so close. I mean, the Dolans, if you think about it, I think they're approaching 20 years now that they've been the owners of the team. I mean, they've come close twice, to win to being a world champion. I mean, I'll argue in 2007 they get to the World Series. That Indians team beats that Colorado Rockies team. To say nothing about 2016 and how close the Indians came to winning the World Series that year. I mean, they've been so close. I mean, it kind of looked, to me, it's like, on one hand, it's like, they want to win. They want a chance to win it all.
Yeah, I agree with you. The other point is that the thing that's a little, scary right now is that guy's not going to be in the organization, okay? For instance, his share of the team has been put into a trust. And he can sell that to somebody, or I would assume the Indians could buy it back, but I would think that they want the influx of cash that would come in through that. I don't think the Indians are rolling in it.
No.
I think that's always been the complaint and the worry of Indians fans. But the fact that he wanted to buy the Indians, sure. I mean, he was right there, and I'm sure he said to them, hey, listen, if you ever want to get out, I really want to own a baseball team, so I'll hop in. I mean, they themselves, didn't they try to buy other teams? They tried to buy the Reds, didn't they? Before that, they wanted in on the Browns.
Well, it's like it's the most exclusive club in sports to be an owner. We talked about this. There are only 30 in the NFL. There are 32 quarterbacks. There are 32 starting quarterbacks, 32 owners.
Yeah.
Same thing with baseball. I mean, there are just a finite number of opportunities.
Yeah. Well, even the guy that just bought the is it Tepper? Tepper, the guy that just bought the Carolina Panthers a couple of years ago. Now he's into his second year. Okay, but his first really full year of owning the team, he kind of came in and he took over and bought the team when Jerry Richardson was forced to sell the team. But I think he was involved with somebody else, and then he came in and bought the team, and he was waiting to get a team. He's from the Pittsburgh area, and now he owns the Carolina Panthers. And I think these guys, they want to get involved, and they wait kind of in a waiting room until the league says, okay, guess what? The Royals are ready to be sold, and that's perfect for this particular guy because he's from there. Yeah,
it's like being on a waiting list to get season tickets. You're on a waiting list to be an owner. The Indians do say that the transition into as Jimmy put it, the trust isn't going to alter their approach. They're committed to a pursuit of winning a World Series while creating a compelling fan experience, what you would expect the Indians to say.
Right, absolutely.
But when this story was kind of developing today, one of the things that people said, geez, maybe the Dolans want out because, hey, look, they know what's on the horizon with Francisco Lindor. And when that happens, and when Lindor is, trying on that Yankee jersey or trying on whatever jersey that he might end up going to, that would be as unpopular as they've been, that would be like 0 day for them.
Yeah. Well, I can remember. In fact, it was like the day before Thanksgiving, when Albert Bell, we were all up in Chicago, and he signed with the White Sox, and we were at the brand new Comiskey Park, and we're at the press conference, and he's trying on the White Sox jersey, and I can remember they said back at Jacobs Field, I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, Albert Bell was a headache, but he was also a 50 home run a year guy.
Right.
And how do you replace that? So you're right. I mean, that would be a tough day for them.
Yeah.
And I think they know it's coming, that they're going to have to do something with the Lindor situation.
The groundwork was clearly laid
Yeah.
back in the offseason. But at the same time, their farm system is such, it's really good. It's getting better. And they understand. I mean, you when the window opens, and there may need to be a new window that opens down the road. I mean, they've been close a couple times.
Yeah.
And I still think they want to. Paul Dolan's a competitive guy. I think he wants to be here for the championship, not just for a league title.
And if you'd like to join them, there's a slice of the team open for you because the other guy just left.
Operators are standing by. All right, Jimmy, have a great weekend. Have a great call
All
on
right,
Sunday,
thank you
my
very
friend.
much.
And
Thank you.
Thank you all for watching. See you tomorrow. Again, reminder, see you tomorrow in Parma for Menor and St. Ed's.
Wow, that's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
can't wait. Yeah, we'll be on the air tomorrow just before 7 o'clock for the action for that one. So I'll see you there tomorrow night for a great high school football game. Remember, Donovan and Dino is presented by Master Pizza. Download the Master Pizza app and earn those pizza points from Master Pizza. Taste above all. For Jimmy, I'm Dino. Donovan and Dino right here on 3 News Facebook Live and on YouTube.
All right.